Okay, guys, we're gonna go ahead and start class. We covered a lot of material last week, pretty important stuff. You know, were you able to mess with it a little bit? Yeah? Guys, you know, and I don't tell you for my benefit because, you know, I'm not, you know, like I tell you guys, I'm not a sugarcoater. I'm not. It doesn't benefit me to tell you to use it. Whether you use it or not, I still get paid the same. It doesn't matter. You know, I'm here for you guys, okay? I tell you to use it for a reason. Use it because the more you use it, the more it's only going to help you, okay? And this is important stuff too, because it's going to cut your editing time down ridiculously, okay? So the more you get used to it, you know, the more it's only going to help you, okay? And you know, like I've said in the past, the way that this software works is the more that you use it, the more familiar it becomes with what you need, okay? Yes, sir, you in the back.
So we don't have, in theory, you don't have transcripts. And I don't want to continue to type the words that we do in class because that's not what I want my machine to learn.
Yeah.
Because it's going to think I'm dyslexic.
Yeah.
Just repeatedly typing the same things over and over again.
Yeah.
So what would you recommend? Like just get a book, type what I know in the book that makes sense, and then just go from there?
I mean, just, and even, you know, take a book.
Because you know, sentences in theory don't make sense.
The news, and you don't have to type the whole news, just you hear a word, try stroking it out, see how it comes out on your machine, mess with it. You know, and the thing that we're really teaching, and this is kind of different, you know, that we teach on Monday nights, is that, you know, you don't really global the whole word. You don't want to global the whole word. Like say you have preoccupied, okay? Well, pre is a suffix, occupy is your base word, and then ed is your suffix. So you want to have three different, you want to define them three different ways. So you don't want to have it as one definition as preoccupied. You want PRE, and I'll show you guys kind of how to, maybe I should go over it now.
I did have one question, and I know that with the global, I got that, I mean, how to add that, and I know you went over it. How do I add it into my dictionary? Like, I was working on something, and something wasn't even in the dictionary. How do I add it from the job that I'm in, and I'm in global, like, you know, but I need to add it to my dictionary.
Okay.
I was afraid to do it because I was like, don't do it.
No. And you're not going to mess it up because your dictionary is probably pretty small right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can find it. So if for some reason you think you messed it up, just write it down on a sheet and then I'll bring it to class and I'll look at it or whatever. But what you do is just global it.
Because I was already in like global, and so
let me see.
How do I not get it in that job and in the dictionary? Like, I guess it's okay for that job, but I needed it in my dictionary too.
You want it in your dictionary?
Well, yeah. You know. Or if we're going to get to that later,
but when you click on
just
the
tell
word,
me.
when you click on the word from right there where you are in global, it doesn't, if you do, you can't, it gives you those options in that drop down box.
Yeah.
But then you can't do click or hit anything else. Or I couldn't hit anything else to add. So like when we did the WA, to say with a, it's not instead, but I wanted to add it.
Yeah.
But when I went to go highlight it, to add it, it wouldn't.
Well, I mean, what you can do too is like right here, you do Control D, and it brings you to this little thing right here, okay? So you can add anything to your dictionary from here. Like say you hear a word and you want to put it in there, okay? Like say you want to do pre. You want to do pre as a prefix. So you do P-R-E. Not P-R-I, because P-R-I is going to be a suffix, okay? So you have to be real careful the way you stroke that out and the way that you name it in your dictionary. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Because PRE is going to be your suffix, your prefix. PRI is going to be your suffix, okay? So this is your stroke. You tell it, okay. So now it brings up the box. So now you have your selections right here, okay? Well, you don't want any of those, okay? What you want is, and the way that you define your prefixes and suffixes is the bracket. So it's the bracket, write this down. And we're gonna go over this later. I'm just kind of doing it right now, you know, just to kind of show you real quick. I'm only gonna show you one time. But it's the bracket, and then PRE. Then you want the caret. That's what they call that, a caret. And what it does is it puts the word together, okay? And then you close the bracket. So that's how you're going to define it right there. Okay? Be real careful with that. Be real careful where you put that caret. Because if you put the caret here, you just turn it into a suffix. Okay? So be real careful where you put it. And if you see right there, it's going to go into your main dictionary. And like you were talking about earlier, say you did it in that job and you misstroked it. Say it's not a stroke that you want in there, but you misstroked it every time today. No big deal. Job define it. Control J puts it in a job dictionary. It's there. Be real careful when you select that though. Okay? Because it's just going to put it in a job dictionary. Okay? So really what you want to do is when you go Control D, PRE, yes, bracket, PRE, bracket, PRE, caret, close bracket. If you ever get this little thing right here and it doesn't give you any of the options of main dictionary or whatever, you're going to come right here. Put your cursor right there on that little dictionary. Open that up. Do any of you guys have that? Where you have the small little thing like this? Where it doesn't give you any? If you don't, you know, then you're fine. Come down here to Customize. And you want Show All. Now it opens it up and it gives you everything. Okay, that's what you want. Every now and then it'll kind of give you this thing. So really what you want to do is if you know that it's going to go into a job dictionary, you push Control J. If not, and you think, well, I don't know what it is. Well, then you come right here, drop this little box right here, and then it'll tell you, what do you want to do? Do you want to go Control J, which is, it's not going to show the same because I think because we're in the tutorial, but it's saying hyperkeys, class B, I don't know what it's saying. But what it is it's a job dictionary. So when you're in a job, that's what it's going to tell you, job dictionary, then you have a trash, global, something like that. And that's what you want to pick. Okay, so if you messed it up, you wrote it the same way, but it's not really a good stroke, not a big deal for that day. You just put it in a job dictionary and go on. No big deal. Don't put it in your main, because every time you stroke that, then it's going to come out as that, and maybe that's a stroke for another word. So maybe you stroked it that way. Say you put TRPGS. TRPGS is transportation. Okay? Did y'all learn that? No? Okay. Well, if you learned marks, you definitely didn't learn that. This is STEM Ed. STEM Ed, TRPGS is transportation. Okay? But say they were talking about the Texas Department of Protective and Regulatory Services, which is what I deal with. And you just put TRPGS. Well, it's coming up transportation every time. No big deal. Put your cursor on the beginning of transportation, global it, and every time transportation comes out, you want it to read Texas Department of Protective and Regulatory Services. Put it in a job dictionary because you don't want to change it You just wanted it for that job. You know, say this is going to be the only job you ever do with the Texas Department of Protective and Regulatory Services. But you just want to use it because you still use your brief for transportation. So you don't want to change that brief, but I mean, just on the fly, you were like, oh, TRPGS. And then it's like, oh, shoot, it's coming up transportation. That's all right, just keep doing it. As long as they don't say transportation, you're all right. But if they say transportation in that thing, then you're still okay. You can still choose. It's going to give you, like we saw in the globals, it's going to give you that option. Do you want transportation? That's what you have it defined as in your main. Or do you want it as Texas Department of Protective and Regulatory Services because you changed it to that today? So in this option, do you want it? It's going to change it to Texas Department of Protective and Regulatory Services because you changed it for that job. But once you get on the T for Texas, it's going to give you that option in number 1. This is the stroke for transportation, but you put this, but do you still want transportation? Because if you do, you just press number 1, puts transportation in there, no big deal. You'll get that? A lot of material, a lot of stuff right there that, you know, we just covered, so. But it's good. It's good because, you know, sometimes you're going to do that. You know, sometimes you're going to use crazy off-the-wall strokes because, you know, you're not going to stroke out Texas Department of Protective and Regulatory Services if you're taking the deposition and they're getting sued by somebody and they're going to say it 47,000 times in this 7-hour depo. And you're going to stroke that out every time? You're going to be walking out of there throwing gang signs with your hands, and not on purpose either. Your hands are going to be all, you know? So it's about working smarter, not harder, okay? And even working smarter still works to your advantage if you're stroking something the same as you stroke it another way. Does that make sense? I know what I'm trying to say, but I don't know if I explained it exactly right. So that's the way that you would do it. All right? Any questions about that? Any questions about any of that? Control D. So if you want to put stuff, you're just sitting there and, you know, you're with your girlfriend, boyfriend, kids, whatever, and it's like, accustomed. I don't think that's in my dictionary. How would I stroke that? Pull out your machine, stroke it, you know, whatever, and it's like, well, how can I break it down? Ac. Ac is probably going to be a prefix to another word. So I'm going to define that one as a prefix. Custom is cuss. Well, it could be. Is Tom. Tom could be. But you put them together as custom, and they're going to be okay. So custom, and then the ending D is the suffix. Make sense? Okay. Any questions about that? No? Okay. I told you guys about coming this week. This is really important stuff that we're covering today. Okay? And I know I say that every week, but this week really is. Magic keys, very important. Okay? And what Eclipse did was they devised a software where they don't want you to lift your keys off of the home keys or anywhere real far. So everything can be done in what's called hyperkeys, okay? And really what it is it's kind of shortcuts. So, you know, each time you move your cursor, Eclipse analyzes the context and AutoMagic offers. So this little box right here, which should be on your left-hand side, is what's called AutoMagic, okay? So it's an artificial intelligence that the software has. So every time, and like I said, the more you use this software, the more it gets accustomed to what you're trying to do. So it's already thinking ahead before you're even doing stuff. You know, so whether you stroked it wrong and you missed it by one letter, it's probably going to have it in the AutoMagic, you know, as a suggestion. Okay? You know, when you first open up, you're going to get a lot of these different things. So if you're on a speaker you know, say you're right here and you're in colloquy, okay? Then you're gonna get this kind of box. But if you're in the body of the depot or the transcript, then it's gonna give you totally different options, okay? And we're gonna go through that. So most of the time you'll be able just to simply press a number for the choice that you need, and that's what the beauty of AutoMagic is. It doesn't want you spending a lot of time typing stuff in, okay? All right, we'll watch the video.
Here's an overview of how AutoMagic works. AutoMagic works. AutoMagic makes using Eclipse as easy as 1, 2, 3. When you turn on Eclipse, press 1 to reopen the last job you were editing. Each time you move your cursor, you'll probably find the choice you need is at the top of the list from 1 to 10. AutoMagic is also a great teacher. Wherever there's a menu item, you'll see the icon. You'll also see the hyperkeys and speed keys that are editing shortcuts. But if you don't need to see these, you can hide them. Here a Steno Notes file is open. Pressing 7 gives you a translation preview. That's not a new feature, but AutoMagic makes it really easy to use. In a new dictionary, just press 1 to build from a word list, or 2 to add entries from your computer keyboard. AutoMagic adds great shortcuts to find entries. Pressing 1 here would filter the display to show just capitalized entries. And now press 1 again to unfilter the display. Globaling is a good example. With Global Magic, Eclipse users can simply mark notes and then pick a choice off a list. You can still use the very efficient globaling dialog, but it's even easier to pick choices from the AutoMagic list. To make this 4-stroke Steno Global, all I have to do is press 3. And now press a number if I want this global to go dictionary or affect the rest of the document. Otherwise, just keep moving the cursor. So global replacements typically take only 1 or 2 steps and no typing. AutoMagic understands paragraphing. Again, just press a number to do with 1 step what might take multiple steps on another program. AutoMagic also watches out for word reversals, or incorrectly applied suffixes, or missing punctuation, and compound word problems. Naturally, it alerts you to spelling problems as you're making them. It also helps with number formatting and hyphenation without requiring that your cursor be at the very start of a number. AutoMagic is not just one feature, it's a synthesis of years of innovation, including global magic and translation magic. Total Eclipse, brilliantly simple, simply brilliant.
Okay, guys, we went over this last week, and the reason I'm going over it again is because of how important it is. Okay, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. If you guys have questions, ask me, but I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, you know, whatever. But I mean, there's a lot of material in there. You have a question? You sure? You got that question face.
No, if I have a question,
Or is that deer in the headlights? What was it? Okay. Do y'all need me to go through it real slow, kind of explain anything? I mean, we covered it last week, so it should be, you know, but I mean, AutoMagic is very important, and use it to your advantage, guys. It's gonna cut your editing time down a bunch.
I
Okay.
used it in the test today just for a couple words, but not so snazzy of me.
Yeah. Yeah, and the more you use it, I mean, it really starts getting fun. It really starts getting fun the more you use it. So, you know, and help each other out. If you guys are in classes, you know, and it's like, oh, what was that for global, or how do we put a stroke in if we want to, you know, control, oh, it's Control D, that's right, yeah. So, I mean, help each other out. Bring a notepad and pen every week, guys, because I want you guys to write this down, and then you go over it during the week, and it's like, oh yeah, it's Control D. What does Control D do? And, oh yeah, it pulls it up, and you can put the stroke in there. Okay, I see.
So when it was going over where it highlighted in yellow what the actual stroke was, what's the difference between that and just actually having, well, I get the difference, but it's similar to just having your Steno Notes on the side, but not being in the actual transcript. You know what I'm saying? When it pulls that up?
No, I'm not getting it, yeah.
So when it pulled up, And it says it's not new, it's been there, they just are highlighting it right now.
Okay, let me go back into this
This
thing.
part.
Oh, just your notes?
That
But
shows the
there's, but
timestamp.
it's got like the timestamp and then it's got the translation on the.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the benefit of using that versus?
The benefit of that is it's going to show you what your writing looked like that day.
Okay.
It's not a huge benefit, you know, but if you wanted to see, you know, hey, how did I write, or how did I stroke that out, or, you know, whatever, then it's going to show you, you know. So it's not really that big of a deal, you know. I don't think you're going to use that a whole lot. I don't know that I've ever used it once, to tell you the truth, you know, other than teaching, you know, like this class. So, but you know, in depots, it's extremely important. Not really, you know, showing the words on the side, but more the timestamp. So it's like, oh yeah, well, what time did they start the cross-examination? You can go down and see, oh, okay, it started at 16:04. Because I think it's done like in military times. So it's
And
gonna.
that's more for billing purposes, or?
No, it's more for. They only get so long to take the depot of one person.
Yeah,
So,
you mentioned that.
yeah, so it's for that. It's for taking down the time, keeping track of the time, of how long, you know, they've been in the depot or whatever. Okay? All right. Now we're going to come to hyperkeys. Very, very important stuff here. Okay? And you say, you know, what is hyperkeys? They're the most frequently used editing commands that have been assigned to letters to the computer keyboard without requiring the use of the control key or the alt key. So you're going to be able to delete, global, insert, modify, capitalize, toggle capitalize. You know, if something's already capitalized, you don't want to capitalize, there's a command for that. There's all kinds of things. Moving around, you know, moving over a word, moving right a word, moving left a word, moving up a sentence, moving down a sentence, stuff like that. So you might think that hyperkeys are not useful with AutoMagic, but that isn't true either. In fact, AutoMagic tries to point out hyperkeys wherever they exist for a couple of reasons. First, the editing choice you need will sometimes not have made it onto the AutoMagic list. Okay? Second, you can often use a hyperkey command faster than you can detect that AutoMagic has offered a duplicate command on its list. Okay? You understand what it's telling you there? So, I mean, you're going to be able to do things a lot quicker than choosing 1, 2. You'll be way ahead of that. Okay? All right. Let's watch the video.
The fastest with Eclipse to use AutoMagic and hyperkeys. You'll be You'll be able to bypass menus, and you won't have to remember whether something begins with Control or Alt. AutoMagic and hyperkeys work beautifully together. Many times you'll be able to pick the choice you need from a numbered list. But sometimes there may not be enough room on the list for the choice that you would need. Wherever possible, AutoMagic would like to also show you the hyperkeys. These allow you to keep your fingers on the typing keyboard. For instance, the cursor keys are right at your fingertips. No need to move your hand, just to move your cursor through the document. Commands are designed to be easy to remember, like D for delete, F for find, G for global. No need to press another key first. If you press Shift with a key, as you would for a capital letter, it can have a totally different, often related meaning. So how do you turn hyperkeys on or off? Of course, you can use the mouse to click on the icon of the toolbar. Also select from the Edit menu, or avoid the menus entirely by using the speed key Alt-Z. When hyperkeys are on, the toolbar icon will look pushed in, and you'll notice an HYP on the status bar at the bottom of the screen. The cursor will look bigger, indicating you're not yet ready to type. And if you have AutoMagic displaying keyboard shortcuts, then you will see the hyperkey indicated. But when hyperkeys are off, you would see the regular speed key, and the cursor would be a narrow typing cursor. When hyperkeys are on, Eclipse expects that when you press a letter, it's to give a command rather than to type. If you forget this, and you press a letter to type and inadvertently lose your place, and perhaps land in a dialogue, simply press the escape key, and then use the movement oops command to go back to the last edit point. That's either Shift-Alt-L or hyperkey capital Z. So how do you temporarily turn off hyperkeys in order to type text? Here you see it as a choice on the off list, but you also see that it's in when hyperkeys are on. When you're finished, just press Enter. That turns hyperkeys on again. And if you want to simply type over a word, again, press hyperkey N, type your new word, and then do not space over, but press the Enter key once to turn hyperkeys on and one more time to chop off the word that you typed over. Type over tracking will remember the replacements you've been making, and AutoMagic will incorporate this into its choices that it offers. A good way to learn how to use hyperkeys is to install and play lessons of the Efficient Editing tutorial. There are about 15 one-class lessons which give you basic information, as well as a set of Tell Me More chapters that offer more detail. A separate visualizer shows you how to use the Efficient Editing tutorial.
A lot of stuff in there. So I'm going to go through again and go real slow, kind of break it down, because there's a lot of stuff in there, okay?
Do you think we can get a copy of that chart he had?
Yeah.
At least just, as a little crutch in the beginning until you get used to, oh yeah, we got to
You know what?
the
Actually-
global and
Would we be allowed to take that chart into testing? Do you know if that's like something that's, obviously not state testing, do you think our school allows something like that?
Yeah.
that chart would be really, really helpful.
I know that I have it, and it might be at home, but I have copies of it, so I'll bring it. And really what we did is, like especially the last, I think this is the third time that I've taught this class, what the students do is they'll usually go and laminate it, okay? And what Valerie actually did, and she may have a copy of it, you may want to ask her, was she took 2 sheets, front and back, and laminated it, so either way that you turn it, you're going to have that chart. It's actually pretty neat.
Smart.
She's nifty.
Resourceful.
Resourceful. Okay? We're going to go through it real slow here, guys, and I'm going to kind of break down some stuff for you that I thought was real important.
The fastest way to edit with Eclipse is to use AutoMagic and hyperkeys. You'll be able to bypass menus, and you won't have to remember whether something begins with Control or Alt. AutoMagic and hyperkeys work beautifully together. Many times you'll be able to pick the choice you need from an...
Really what they're explaining here is kind of what we went through just a little while ago with the AutoMagic key. So it's just kind of telling you, if you go through different, you're moving through different words, and say they said, he went to Lafayette, okay? Well, no big deal. You know what? Well, what they did was they asked the person to spell Lafayette, and yours comes out like that because you do L period, A period, F. So what it's doing is putting it in caps, which is no big deal. There's a stroke that you can use that will automatically stitch it. We won't get into that. That's going to be in the advanced class. But there's a stroke that you can do to L-A-F-E, L-A-F-A. Is it A Lafayette? I think it's spelled like this, with 2 T's, I think. Anyway, whatever. But, say you spelled it out, L-A-F-A-Y-E-T-T-E, whatever, and then you do this stroke, and it's S-T-P-H, stitch. And then it has a certain command that's in your dictionary that says, when you do S-T-P-H, it's going to stitch the word, and it comes back and stitches the last word that you just did.
Would you know how to look up in my dictionary what my theory's version of that is?
Of what?
You're saying the SDPH?
What theory? What do you want? Huh?
Kisslingberg.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you can still use the stroke.
Do we have SDPH?
That's the question.
Yeah, that's our question mark.
S-T-P-H?
Yeah.
Really? I'm sorry. S-T-F-P.
Oh, okay.
S-T-F-P. I'm sorry, guys.
No, you're good.
I'm sorry. S-T, FP. The FP in Sten Ed is your CH sound.
Yeah.
RB is SH,
Oh,
okay?
okay.
So it's stitch, but you don't want to use the I in there because then it's the word stitch. So really this is a command.
So
It's not a word.
So if someone spells their name and you type it out with the finger spelling, as soon as you're done with that last stroke, you would just hit the stitch and it would automatically put in all that stuff up there.
If you're spelling it, what it's going to do is that.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to go through that right now. Like I said, that's the advanced class. But there's a command for it. But say you do it, and say you're doing a test right now, and you had to spell it out. And it comes out like this. Or it comes out L space, A space, F space, blah, blah, blah. You're like, no big deal. All you have to do is it's probably going to give you that command in AutoMagic. Okay? You press number 3, it automatically does it for you. No big deal. Even if it doesn't, there's another way to do it. Put your cursor on the first L, global, the whole word, and then you're going to put the little hyphen key, which is a small little hyphen, which is up there by the plus sign on your right to the left of the plus sign. I mean, right to the left of it. You push that, automatically does it. Push enter and it does it.
So what if could you use it?
Do you have something open? Do you guys have something open? Can you open like a?
I've got
Could you
one.
use it between two words? Like say you wanted to say 6 million, or what was it in English? Was it 6 million?
The hyphen.
If you wanted to include the hyphen, say like 6 million, blah blah blah. Would you highlight
10 cent
or global
transaction, right?
Yeah, 10 cent. So if
Transaction,
you
and so the hyphen goes after the 10, after the 10.
between 10 and 10.
Yeah.
So no
I don't know if I'm completely. Let me show you guys. Let me show you something real quick. Okay, say you're here. You're right there. You're going to do F7, which is going to highlight the word. Like say you just did that word, and it's STOPPED.
And F7 highlights it, right?
Yeah.
Is that what? okay.
F7 will highlight it, which is different than global.
Yeah.
Okay? Then you do the stitch, and it just did it. See? But say you didn't want it, press Z. Z is the oops key in hyperkeys. Hyperkeys is the fat key. That's when you know it's on. It's pressed in, fat key, you know it's on, and it's going to tell you right there, hide it.
So you
Or hyper.
highlighted and pressed
Yeah.
S.
So I can do it
stitch
again.
without the I, right?
F7, highlights it.
It's so magical.
Or you can go back, highlight it again, do it, and then it'll do it back. Okay? So say you want those 3 words, and say you want it hyphenated.
That's what I'm asking. Gotcha.
So you put 3 words in there and it'll hyphenate it.
And
My
I-
brother-in-law.
So
yeah.
say it's
So it would be
eye to
10
eye,
cent in English,
sister-in-law.
you know?
sister-in-law,
Sister-in-law.
eye to eye, face-to-face, stuff like that. F7.
That's what I was asking. So you just answered.
Z.
Question,
I was
if I
using
make a
example,
mistake and
yeah.
I'm not using
10
the
cents.
keys, but then I want to be able to use the Z to make a mistake, if I go
Because
to
they
How
have
she-
roles.
You would, okay, never mind.
Control Z is
Control Z
the
is the out.
Transaction. So because it's following.
Am I jumping the game? So when I was going over stuff, this is what I had a problem with. Where to put, okay, so now I know to hit F7.
Mhm.
How do I, if it doesn't show up, like the word doesn't show up on the left side,
Mhm.
and I want to type over it, because I saw, or am I jumping the gun? What do I do to type over it? Or-
Like say you're right
Yeah, what if
here,
it's not light, it's L-I-T,
and it's
and it doesn't come up?
LITE.
Yeah, and it didn't come
And
up.
what you can do is go control, over, and allows you to
Okay.
type in. So you put TE, push enter, puts you back into hyperkeys, enter again, deletes it.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry about deleting it, whatever. You keep it right there, type what you need to, enter, put you back into hyperkeys, enter again, deletes it.
It was N, right? That took me in there?
and then it's easy to put it back. See what it is?
That was pretty cool. Now, what happens if sometimes I'm typing and somehow I'll end up just completely typing over the word because it'll start eating up the word as I type?
Oh, then you're into, it's Shift Control M, I believe. Because you're in overtype instead of insert.
Okay.
So really it's the insert key.
So,
Puts you
so
in
that just
overtype. So now, when you want to type,
yeah,
that's how it's going to type over.
just for that one word.
Yeah.
Okay.
Puts it back, insert, puts you back into insert,
Okay.
which is really where you want to be. You don't want to be usually not in overtype very often because you don't want to overtype what you're doing. You know, you can always do it with type over. I mean, not type over, with insert. So, and then you get back into auto magic. I mean, you get back into hyper keys and then it just deletes it anyway. Okay? You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So say, you know,
And
you
then
were
keep it
there,
there until you delete it.
and it was, I don't even know, say it was light. Enter, takes it away. Oh, you know what? That was wrong. Z, puts it back. So it's gonna.
I was freaking out.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying, guys, like,
Because when I was playing with it, I was typing over stuff. And
Yeah.
then I would have to go back and
Yeah.
hit the delete button, and I'm like, there's gotta be an easier way. So can you get us that chart then, or email it to us? I mean, or.
well, the chart is on there, so all you have to do is go home, and it's gonna show us the chart here in just a bit. It just showed it just a little while ago, and then all you do is print that page.
Okay.
So you go home, print it, you know, whatever. But if you don't and it doesn't come out right, then let me know.
From the video?
Yeah,
Could we print it here? I don't know if the
Yeah.
printer's.
yeah, you should, yeah, the printer should be
Go
on.
to the.
So try printing. I'm not hooked up to the printer with my computer, so.
We pay for that paper.
Okay, any questions about that? No? So that's how you do the stitch, you know, whatever.
Stitch, yeah.
And, you know what? Let me see if. Okay.
Numbered list. But sometimes there may not be enough room on the list for the choice that you would need. Wherever possible, AutoMagic would like.
This is the list right here. So come to this, do Control P, and you should be able to print it. Okay? And if somebody can try to do that while we're doing that, that'll be great. If somebody's hooked up to the printer here, you know, whatever. But really what it does is it tells you this is all the stuff that you can do in HyperKeys. Okay? So these are all the commands that you can do. Now you have to be real careful because it shows you like a small a means capital toggle. So what it's going to do is if it's small, it's going to capitalize it when you push A. If it's capitalized, when you push small a, it's going to make it a lowercase. Okay? Be real careful because if you push Shift A, which is a capital A, that's how you make a capital A, Shift A is going to make it all caps. So say you're on a word, get on a word,
Okay.
and just do, and you're in HyperKeys, right?
Yes.
Is it fat? Okay. And then just do Shift A,
It just made the entire word all caps.
the entire word all caps. Do Shift A again on that same word.
Oh, on the same word.
You didn't do anything?
No.
Nothing?
I'd like to go back to that word and do Shift A again.
Yeah. Go back to that same
It
word.
just keeps like going to the next word.
It does?
The oops key.
Yeah. Push Z. Well, because you went to the next word, then went back. So once you do something and then go back and then mess around a little bit, it forgets what you've done. Okay? So, you know, it's still not a big deal.
Okay, so okay. So that's one thing. So I'm at defendant is the word that I did.
Yeah.
And it turned all caps, so I decided I was just going to write the whole thing out in lowercase again. But when I pressed the D, because I was in hyperkeys,
It deleted it.
obviously.
Yeah.
So that's the thing you have to remember, I guess, is to always.
In is
yeah.
insert.
And then right.
In is type.
Okay.
So when you're in hyperkeys, every letter is a command. So you have to be careful, guys, and that's why I'm saying start using it on practice stuff, because you're going to freak out if you're on a test and you do some stuff and it deletes a word and you forget, how do I get it back? I don't even know what was there, blah, blah, blah. If you know the command Z, write it down. Command Z in hyperkeys is always the oops. Or Control Z, if you're not in hyperkeys, is the oops also. Okay?
What key did you say was to pull up the chart?
What do you mean?
We
I'm
gotta
trying to
go
pull up
into-
the chart here so I can print
You
it.
gotta go into help,
Go into,
Yeah,
pull up the lesson,
are you not in the lesson?
yeah.
and then click there to watch the video.
The automatic, I forgot which one you were on.
Hyperkeys.
Yeah, I'm on hyperkeys, but which video? The
Hyperkeys.
Hyperkeys, okay.
Okay, so this is the chart right here, guys, okay? So if you want to left one word, right one word, up a line, down a line. So they're right there. And these are going to become your best friends right here. These three fingers are going to become your best friends in hyperkeys, okay? Because that's how you move. You don't use the arrows anymore, moving over. It's all right there in the letters. Okay, so once you get used to it, it's going to be quick, and it just takes a little bit of getting used to. And like I said, do a practice thing or whatever. I know that y'all aren't testing or whatever, but I mean y'all are writing stuff, aren't you? Nothing.
Words. Yeah, we're reading words.
Yeah.
I mean, I use it.
Mess around. Just mess around when y'all do stuff in class or whatever that y'all are doing. Word list or you're doing letters. Just move around. L is, J is left one word, L is right, up, down is IK. So, there's a lot of stuff. Cap, shave the previous word, delete a word if you want to find something. Global, the oops is a small z. N is insert text, which is new text. So what they try to do is they try to get the letter closest to what you're trying to do in the command. Okay? It's actually pretty neat the way that they kind of did this stuff. You can scan to a next troubled area. So they picked a T for that. Reverse scan, fill in an empty field. Word endings, fabulous. Fabulous, guys. Get on a word.
Okay.
Type W.
I guess I'm going to always be on the beginning of a word in hyperkeys.
It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
I don't think, but you should be at the beginning of a word
Yeah,
and just
okay.
hit W.
Okay.
And it brings up a list, do G.
The word was saw, it became sawing.
Sawing. So G is the ing, and then just push Z and it'll take you back. So it's going to give you a list, and we'll kind of go through that later, but it's going to kind of show you word endings, awesome. Adding an S, you don't have to go to the word, hit control, back up, add an S. Guys, it's going to be so much more simple.
How do you capitalize just one letter of a word instead of the whole word?
A.
Oh, just A by itself?
A by itself. Small a.
Okay.
Small a capitalizes, and it toggles it. So if it's a capital A, it's going to make it a small. If it's a small, it's going to capitalize.
Oh, so it'll do whatever it wants.
Yeah. The shift A is going to capitalize the whole word. So if it's an acronym or something like that, then it's going to capitalize the whole word. Okay? Got it?
Yes.
And we'll kind of go into these a little more in depth or whatever. They're just kind of showing it to you right now.
To also show you the hyperkeys. These allow you to keep your fingers on the typing keyboard. For instance, the cursor keys are right at your fingertips. No need to move your hand, just to move your cursor through the document. Commands are designed to be easy to remember at your fingertips. No need to move your hand, just to move your cursor through the document. Commands are designed to be easy to remember, like D for delete, F for find, G for global. No need to press another key first. If you press Shift with a key, as you would for a capital letter, it can have a totally different, often related meaning. So how do you turn hyperkeys on or off? Of course, you can use to click on the icon.
Okay, the way that you turn on hyperkeys is one of two ways, okay? You can go to your icon and just click it, or Alt-Z. Alt-Z turns it on, Alt-Z turns it off, okay? Or Enter. Enter will usually, or Insert, I'm sorry, In for Insert. We usually turn it off too.
That's to turn it off.
Off.
The only way to turn it on is Alt-C.
Is Alt-Z.
Okay.
Or the icon. So when it's on, you'll see that this thing is pressed in. It's a different color. It's look pressed in. And it's going to show you right here that it's in hyperkeys, which it's not right now. Okay? And it'll show you
At the toolbar, but you can also
right there. You'll know that you're in hyperkeys right there. Okay? And it's always going to give you, you know, over here, it's always going to show you, you know, kind of what it is. And the speed key to do it. Alt-Z. Okay? And I kind of showed y'all the one of open the text, Alt-E. So whenever there's a different command, undo is the oops. Okay? So it's Z, or if you're not in hyperkeys, it's Control-Z, which is the capital Z right there. Okay? Got it?
Got it.
also select from the Edit menu or avoid the menus entirely by using the speed key Alt-Z. When hyperkeys are on, the toolbar icon will look pushed in, and you'll notice an HYP on the status bar at the bottom of the screen. The cursor will look bigger, indicating
That's another indication right there, guys. You're always going to know by the size of that cursor what you're in. So whether you want to look down here, 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 you have three different ways of knowing whether you're in hyperkeys or not. Okay? This thing is going to be pressed in. The cursor is going to be fatter. Hyperkeys is going to be indicated. Okay?
you're not yet ready to type, and if you have auto match,
So when you're in and you have the large cursor and you try to type, it's not going to do it. Okay? Hyperkeys is commands, not type. Commands.
So it's showing the block mark.
Yeah.
Is that because, what is that? Is that blocking you from being entered or what? What is
No,
it?
no, no. It's just showing you different things of what you can do with it. So if you want to, what it is it's showing you the speed keys right now. So it's not really showing, it's not really telling you anything. But if you want to block mark something, then you push the M and it'll block mark something. So really it's just pointing to something that it was going to do. Okay? And I'll kind of back it up and it'll explain it right there.
you'll notice an HYP on the status bar at the bottom of the screen. The cursor will look bigger, indicating you're not yet ready to type. And if you have Auto Magic displaying keyboard shortcuts, then you will see the hyperkey indicated. But when hyperkeys are off, you would
See, and when hyperkeys is off, this thing is not going to be pressed in. Way smaller cursor. Hyperkeys is not on. And once you see that it has like a control or an F or something like that, then you're going to know that you're back into insert mode. Okay? Make sense? All right.
see the regular speed key, and the cursor would be a narrow typing cursor. When hyperkeys are on, Eclipse expects that when you press a letter, it's to give a command rather than to type.
It's to give a command rather than to type. And you're going to be used to typing at first. You know, and you're going to, that's lighthouse, not light, red light. It was lighthouse. And you go to typing and you go and press L, it's going to do something completely different. You know, and whatever the function is, you know, for L, well, L is move, you know, write one word. Well, it's going to keep moving over, and you're going to go L, and then I, and then it's going to move it over, write one word, and then I is going to do something completely different. So then, you know, you may end up at the bottom of the page, and you're like, oh my God, don't freak out. As long as you're in hyperkeys, or get yourself back into hyperkeys by escaping, you know, if you need to, if it went to a command, you know, or something like that, that it won't let you do anything, press escape, escape, then make sure that you're in hyperkeys, and then press Z, and it'll take you back to the place where you were. Does that make sense?
You forget this, and you press a letter to type and inadvertently lose your place, and perhaps land it.
See, and you may come into this right here, and it may take you to a fill-in-the-blank thing, you know, right here. Well, you're going to start typing right here. It's like, well, that's not what I want to do. Don't freak out. Escape out of that. Make sure you're back in hyperkeys, which you have the larger cursor. Press Z, and it'll take you back. And that's what it's telling you right there. Movement oops, the last edit point. So it's Shift Alt L or hyperkey Shift Z. So it's Shift Z or just Z if you're in hyperkeys already. Okay, Z will take you, Z is the oops. And it may take you somewhere, and it's like, well, that's not where I was. Press Z again, it'll take you back to the next place you were. So keep pressing Z and it'll take you back to the last command that you were. Okay? Really, really, really important stuff right there, guys. Because the first time it happens, you're going to freak out when it goes to the end of the document, or it goes to a fill-in-the-blank field for some reason, which you shouldn't have a fill-in-the-blank field, but you know, maybe it takes you to a totally different place on that document, and that's not where you wanted to be, and you can't remember where you were. Always remember that Z command in hyperkeys. Okay?
In a dialog, simply press the escape key and then use the movement oops command to go back to the last edit point. That's either Shift Alt L or hyperkey capital Z. So how do you temporarily turn off hyperkeys in order to type text? Here you see it as a choice on the AutoMagic list, but you also see that it's in when hyperkeys are on.
We've gone over that too. So how to get out of hyperkeys is in. How to type in a word, you know, say you dropped a word, or you know, it's not one of your command, not one of the options right here, and you just totally misstroked that word or whatever, don't freak out. Push in, type in the word, enter, and you don't have to, you know, type in the word and then push a space, you know, whatever. And that's what I showed you guys earlier. You don't have to do that. Type in the word, keep the word right there, press enter, puts you back into hyperkeys, enter again, deletes that word. Okay? And it's going to tell you something right here that's actually pretty neat. Okay? So I'm going to back it up just a bit.
In order to type text, here you see it as a choice on the AutoMagic list, but you also see that it's in when hyperkeys are on. When you're finished, just press enter. That turns hyperkeys on again. And if you want to simply type over a word, again, press N, type your word, and then. And if you want to simply type over a word, again, press hyperkey N, type your new word, and then do not space over, but press the enter key once to turn hyperkeys on, and one more time to chop off the word that you typed over.
Good, and be careful. Okay? Good, because say you did she, and say it was he, okay, and you wanted it to be she, no big deal. Press N, type S, puts the S on there, enter, puts you back into hyperkeys, no big deal. What it's telling you right here is when you type over a word and you push N right here and they just did it. I'm going to back it up just a bit. But they just did it.
and then do not space over.
See, and what he had was pages. What he had here was pages, okay? Well, what he did was he wanted chart there, okay? And say every time you had pages, it's gonna be chart. No big deal, okay? It's gonna, you type in chart, come to the end, don't leave a space, enter, puts it back in the hyperkeys, enter again, deletes pages.
So you're saying if I have a key, which I've got a key right here, and I go out of hyperkeys and press an S, and then press, so now it's she, if I press enter once, it's good, but then if I press enter again, it's gonna delete the,
No, it shouldn't.
well, I mean, it just did, because it was.
Oh, because you left it at the end.
Exactly,
Yeah.
that's what you want to.
Yeah, you just want to get it back into hyperkeys. So say you just wanted to add the S on to he. Say this was he. Well, let me finish this. I'm sorry, guys. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, and then I'll come back. You have pages right here. You wanted to put chart. So you type in chart. Don't leave the space. Push enter. Put you back into hyperkeys. Enter again. Chops that word off. Okay? Pretty neat little command right there, but it just remembered what you did. Okay? So the next time you come to pages and you push in, it's going to put chart right there. It's going to automatically put chart because it remembers the last time you had pages right there, you put chart. Okay? So if you don't want it to remember that command, then you put chart, put a space in between, enter, D will delete the word. That makes sense? So be real careful right there because, and it's real good because like every now and then I forget the S like on she and it puts he, whatever, you know. But now I put it to where I put in, put the S in there one time. So now every time I do it on he, and whether it was there and I have he, that S is going to come up every time. No big deal. You want it there? Great. Push enter, keep on going. That you wanted it she. But say it was there. T-H-E-R-E. Well, no big deal. You push in, type in there, put a space, go back into hyperkeys, push D, delete the H-E.
So on that, you would put a space.
I would. Because you don't want it to remember it for he. Because then it's going to change and start doing it every time, you know, with there.
So put in a space makes it not remember it.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you leave it there and you want it to remember it, then it's going to remember it. Okay? So it's good, really good, and kind of bad if you use it the wrong way, which is no big deal. And sometimes, and I have a command, and I didn't know what I was doing when I first started using this, and I was like SSSSSSS on this one command. So now, whenever I go in to change something on this one word, it puts like 7 S's in there. No big deal. You press it again, it takes the S's out. You're good to go.
So just to make sure that I'm understanding this, so I don't screw up editing from this.
Yeah.
If I'm changing words by typing, not creating a space, enter to delete that last part, you're saying anytime I come across something like that again, is it going to automatically have changed it for that, or will it just
No.
come up as an option?
No, it's not going to change anything.
Okay.
So it's not global in anything. It's not remember. All it did was remember the last time that you tried to go insert something right here, this is the word that you put.
Does it remember it for that particular job or any time?
Use it enough times, it remembers it any time.
Anytime, okay.
Yeah. So every time that I do he, and it's supposed to be she, it comes up with that S automatically now. Okay? Any questions about that? No?
But press the enter key once to turn hyperkeys on and one more time to chop off the word that you typed over. Type over tracking will remember the replacements you've been making.
So it's going to remember. So when you put it right here, now it's remembering. So now it's putting it as an auto magic option now. Okay? Or you can push in and it'll put the word there. It'll put the word chart right there and say, is this what you wanted to do? No. I wanted to put just page. Well, there's a different command for that, so you don't have to worry about that, but you know, I'm just giving you as an example. No, that's not, I didn't want to put chart, I wanted to put page. Well, see, it gives you the option right there. So you don't have to push in to insert anything. All you have to do is pick from one of the AutoMagic options or type in something else if it was a totally different word. Make sense?
And AutoMagic will incorporate this into its choices that it offers. A good way to learn how to use hyperkeys is to install and play lessons of the efficient editing tutorial. There are
Okay. All that's going to do is just kind of go through and explain about the lessons, whatever. You don't really need that. Okay. So AutoMagic and hyperkeys do not have to be used together. They don't. Kind of good that they do, but you don't have to. Because of that, they'll talk about hyperkeys first, and later they'll talk closer to look at AutoMagic. Are there ways to edit without using AutoMagic or hyperkeys? Yes, there is. You can look for an icon or a menu item and then reach for the mouse and point and click. Guys, that defeats the whole purpose of using this software. Okay? Once you go to using that mouse again, all you're doing is wasting time. Okay? Time, in this job, time is money. Okay? The faster you get that job out, get it out, the faster you get paid on that job. Okay? And I'm not telling you to start cranking out lousy work. I'm just saying it's all about speed, you know, and editing faster, getting stuff out faster, and using the software to its advantage. So you can press F10 to access the menu bar and then press the hotkeys, the letters for which that are underlined on a certain item. Let's see if it'll do it. It won't do it on here. The speed keys is, and it'll sometimes give it to you like on your AutoMagic, and it may say in hyperkeys just press H, and it'll have it underlined. That means that it's a hotkey. Does that make sense? So if it's underlined, if you have an option over here and it's underlined, then that's a hotkey for it. And that's just like, you know, you press that key and it does that command or whatever. So that's what it's just kind of telling you right there. And it's going to tell you about that right here. You can use speed keys to avoid the menus altogether. This is an ideal high frequency command like Alt-E to edit a job. As we introduced hyperkeys, we'll make passing references to the speed key, you know, F7 to mark, which, you know, we did, you know, with the body of the text earlier, okay? F7 to mark it, and you can do a lot of things, you know, with marking it after that, okay?
Let's see how you can use either the mouse or keyboard commands for just about any function within Total Eclipse. Oops. The left mouse button is typically used to click or select, while the right mouse button opens a context menu. You may be clicking on a toolbar icon, or a menu column, or simply clicking to position your cursor. Right-clicking will open a context menu, which will vary according to where your cursor is placed. However, there's no need to constantly reach for the mouse. For instance, you can press F10 or just press the Alt and Release to access the menu bar, H for Help. Every Eclipse menu or dialog has hotkeys as an alternative to using the mouse. But if there's any place where you can type in a dialog, then Windows requires you to press the Alt key in order to use the underlined letter as a hotkey. Hotkeys are underlined letters on menus or dialogues, but Eclipse also encourages you to use speed keys, which bypass the menus entirely. For instance, Alt-T to translate and Shift-Alt-T to stop translation. And finally, there are Eclipse hyperkeys, which are even more efficient than using a mouse or speed keys. But this is the subject of a separate presentation.
Kind of a lot of information in there too, guys, and I'll go through it a little bit slower.
Let's see how you can use either the mouse or keyboard commands for just about within total clips. The left mouse button is typically used to click or select, while the right mouse button,
And you guys know this already, right? Y'all should know this already.
Kindergarten.
Yeah, this is pretty elementary stuff, but if you don't, I mean, I'll explain it to you. Does everybody know what this command does?
Yeah.
Whenever you're searching stuff or whatever, you left click, it's gonna select it. Right click gives you options of what you can do with the mouse or whatever, okay? Y'all know that, right?
opens a context menu. You may be clicking on a toolbar icon, or a menu column, or simply clicking to position your cursor. Right-clicking will open a context menu, which will vary according to where your cursor is placed. However, there's no need to constantly reach for the mouse. For instance, you F10, or just press the Alt key and release to access the menu bar.
You see what it's saying there? So doing the the F10, or pressing the Alt will bring up the menu, okay? And then, whatever you want to do, you want to open a certain thing. Well, I want to open the edit file. All you do is press the E. That's what those hotkeys was talking about, okay? The underlined letter is going to allow you to do, those are hotkeys, okay? So you don't have to get your mouse and go up there. You just push the E or whatever. P for production, M for move. If you want to learn the different moves, whether it's right one word, left one word, right one character, left one character, up a sentence, down a sentence, whatever.
For help. Every Eclipse menu or dialog has hotkeys as an alternative to using the mouse. But if there's...
So even in your user settings, it has it too. So if you want to do something, say you did something and you want to put a footer on your document, you create the footer. Say you want to copy it, you're in the current document, you want it to copy to the master format, then you press M, it'll change the little mark over here, and then push copy. Be real careful with that, guys, because once you change it to your master, it's changed, okay? And you can change it, but you have to go into your master and do it again and make it right. So, but that's a subject of another little thing too, but that, we're talking about the hotkeys right here. So it's not always the first letter. Might be the 6th letter, 7th letter, whatever, okay? So be real careful, about using those. If you want to use them, great. If you don't, it's not that big of a deal.
Any place where you can type, Windows requires you to press the Alt key in order to use the underlined letter as a hotkey. Hotkeys are underlined letters on menus or dialogues, but Eclipse also encourages you to use...
That's the thing about it, guys, is the hotkeys is good, but this is the one that you want to learn. You want to learn the Eclipse keys, okay? And these are called the speed keys. Speed keys, hotkeys. Hotkeys are the one letter. Speed keys are right here. It's almost like a speed command. Is more what it is. Okay?
Speed keys, which bypass the menus entirely. For instance, Alt-T to translate, and Shift-Alt-T to stop translation.
Do you understand what it's telling you? It's just giving you the different commands right there. Okay? And instead of using just the one letter for stop translation, the T for start translation. Okay?
And finally, there are...
That T will only work as long as you are
in that
drop-down menu. So
yeah.
It's better to just learn how to get there directly.
Yeah. Because you're always going to have to look at the menu and say, oh, this one is saying translate. Well, say I want to go to the next untranslate and it's, you know, T2, which it's not, but, you know, say you wanted to do that, you know, then it's something totally different. So it's better to learn the command, okay?
Okay.
And finally, there are Eclipse hyperkeys, which are even more efficient than using a mouse or speed keys. But this is the subject of a separate presentation.
Any questions about that? Covered a lot of material in there. Okay, and here it just kind of goes through. So what it does is it shows you the little video or whatever, and then it kind of goes through and explains it again, what it just went over. Okay, and that's kind of what it's doing there, is telling you, you know, there's no need to use the Control and Alt when you're in the hyperkeys. That's the whole point of the hyperkeys, okay? So that's kind of the point of the hyperkeys, is to reduce movement and fatigue in your fingers. All right? So, you know, it's just helping you save time, is what they're telling you. So how do you turn on hyperkeys?
Z.
Alt Z. Okay. I'm gonna ask you questions periodically, you know, like that, and it's because the more you hear it, the more you say it, the more you're gonna understand, and it's gonna comprehend. Okay. Okay. Like just about every aspect of Total Eclipse, the hyperkeys and their related macro commands can be customized to your liking. However, it's a good idea to learn the default hyperkeys first. This will make it easier to communicate with support technicians and other Total Eclipse users. So you can customize it to whatever you want it to do, but be real careful with that, because, you know, when you go and try to explain stuff, you know, you call support and say, well, you know, it's not doing this command. Well, that's what it's labeled to do. Then they have to go through and go in to your user settings, see what you did there to change that command, and then, you know, go back and either edit it or you know, try to figure out what you were trying to do. Okay?
Eclipse comes with an extensive set of speed keys and hyperkeys, which are designed for editing efficiency. You can change any of these if you like. Let's see how. Settings, Edit, Keyboard. If hyperkeys are on, you'll first be shown the list of commands that only work when hyperkeys are turned on. These are arranged alphabetically, and letters are shown as Shift, modifying a key. You can assign a function to any key on the keyboard, possibly modified by the Control, Shift, or Alt keys. If there's any standard or hyperkey command that you'd like to delete, just select it and press Delete. You can also modify the function of any key or add an entirely new function. It can be added as one that only works when hyperkeys are active, or one that works all the time. Here I'll place my cursor in the keystroke field and press F12. The system will warn you if you try to use a key that's already assigned to a different command. So you should find that Eclipse lets you edit your keyboard so that it's set up just the way you like.
Pretty standard, but if you want to start messing around with that, be careful, okay? Now you can do whatever you want, but when you start going in and messing with that stuff, be careful, okay? But I mean, you can customize it to whatever you want. Say you have certain commands, and it's like, you know what, I use that command all the time, and I want to change it. That's how you do it. Go into your user settings, and
Eclipse commands that only work when hyperkeys are turned on. These are arranged alphabetically. Edit.
So really what you want to do is, you know, if you're in your thing, you just go to Alt-U, press it, and you can go in anywhere in your document. Go into Alt-U, and it's going to bring up your user settings. So it's going to bring up a myriad of stuff, and you can do stuff with numbers, the document, paragraphs, the display, translation, real time, editing, you know, whatever. And then there's smaller boxes that you go into that you can change that stuff. And the one that you want to go into is keyboard if you want to change it. Okay? So that's how you do it if you want to go in and customize your keyboard. Okay? Be real careful with that.
Question while we're there.
Yeah.
In real time, what's the speed that you want to have it at? 4,000? Is it 3,000 or 4,000?
I don't.
Right there. If you click on real time
Okay.
at the top.
Yeah, it's not going to let me do it here because this is in the visualizer or whatever. So remind me when we get out of this, and I'll go into it and I'll see exactly what it is. Okay.
Keyboard. If hyperkeys are on, you'll first be shown the list of commands that only...
So when you want to go through, and this is going to change it only in hyperkeys. So when you're in hyperkeys, these commands are going to do what it's listed to do. So if you want to change it, it's only going to change it in hyperkeys. But if you want to change it in standard, when you're just typing or whatever, then you want to have it in standard. So you want to be real careful, and it'll give you a different list when you go into standard too. Okay?
Work when hyperkeys on. These are arranged alphabetically, and capital letters are shown as shift, modifying a key. You can assign a function to any key on the keyboard, possibly modified by the Control, Shift, or Alt keys. If there's any standard or hyperkey command that you'd like to delete, just select it and press Delete. You can also modify the function of any key.
So, I mean, like just for instance, and we kind of went over this, that Control Shift F7, and we did that the first week. Zooms in, Control Shift F8 zooms out, and you want to change it, you can change it to whatever you want. Control Shift F8 is delete a paragraph, I don't know, whatever you want to do. Or block a bottom, block a top, previous scan, multi-scan, you know, because for the one for multi-scan, which only makes sense because it's M, but you want to change it to Control Shift F7 because you think that's easier. Help yourself, whatever, you know. Be real careful with that though.
Or add an entirely new function. It can be added as one that only works when hyperkeys are active.
So I'll kind of go back a little bit and show you
It
something.
can be added as one that only works, or...
Okay, like right now on standard, and you can do it right now, if you're in a document or whatever, press F3 anywhere in that document on a word, and it's going to make it a question. Press F4 and it's going to make it an answer. Sir?
As in the question and answer bank, or put a question mark on it?
Put a question mark on it. Are you in a,
No.
do you have one? Okay. Let's all go right here to the Murphinator. And you can be anywhere in that document right there, okay? F3 makes it a question. Did you see how it just made it a question? And it was right. And it was right in the middle of that sentence. No big deal. You know what? The question guy started asking a question. F3 made it a question. Okay? No big deal. You didn't want it there. Z, Z. And then A. So sometimes it'll do it, sometimes it won't. On that, oops, it won't go completely back. So you just kind of have to fix it. So even if you did, and then F4 will make it an answer. You know,
So
you
you
want to.
press to get out of it, you press Z and then backspace to get rid of the question mark?
Yeah.
And then do I
And
need to do a
then-
space or just
Yeah,
back?
space, and then A
By itself, not.
Yeah. I'm taking, so A is gonna make it cap or lower. Okay. So you see how I just did that? But say you don't want it to do that. Say you want F3 to be your speaker list. So that's F2. Where your speaker list is right there. So say you have the court, number 2 is attorney 1, number 2 is attorney 2, number 3, and you can go in there and do it. Like start typing in all caps the court.
Which one?
Right there.
Oh, right there.
Mhm. See how it puts it there on the first option?
Mhm.
And say you don't want it there, say you want it on number 3, you just move it down. You put it on whichever one you want. So when you open your speaker list now, number 4 is going to be, yeah, but if not, it's always going to default to the first one that's open. Okay? So that's just kind of your speaker list right there. And you can just kind of get out of that. But we'll kind of go over those commands later, but that's just kind of some of the stuff that they were showing you right there. Which, you know, when it says F2 speaker, what it's showing you right here, F2 speaker, that's what I was showing those guys back there. So, you know, but if you want to change these things, say it doesn't work for you, you want F3 to be answer, and you want your F2 to be the question, and F3 to be the answer, because F2 doesn't work for you. You can do whatever you want. Change them around, modify them, delete them, whatever. You can edit it, you know, so, but like I said, be real careful with that, guys, because a lot of the standard, you know, things work with the way that Eclipse does them because of certain letters, and there's a lot of things that they do, there's a lot of rhyme to the reason for what they do. You know, it has to do with the letters or whatever, so it just makes it a little bit easier that way. Make sense?
Or add an entirely new function. It can be added as one that only works when hyperkeys are active, or one that works all the time. Here I'll place my cursor in the keystroke field and press F12.
So if you want to change it, that's how you do it. Put the command, say you want it to be the question, put right here F2 instead of F3, blah, blah, blah. Okay?
The system will warn you if you try to use a key that's already assigned to a different command. So you should find that Eclipse lets you edit your keyboard so that it's set up just the way you like.
Any questions about that?
Doesn't it seem like they're just asking for problems by introducing that portion to us?
A little bit, but I mean, so it works for some people, you know, and you want to change it up and you want to do different things with it, help yourself. You know, it's easier for me to remember that F2 is the question and F3 is the answer. But that's not the way Eclipse did it. F3 is the question, F4 is the answer, but you want to change it up, help yourself. It's quicker for you, help yourself, you know, so. How do you get into hyperkeys? Alt Z. Whoops, key. All right. Another good thing right here is you probably want to come here and probably print this page too. And it's kind of just a shortcut to what these letters do. Okay? It's going to toggle on the caps, block functions, conflicts, delete a word, empty field, which is fill in a blank, find, global, mark, new text. But if you notice, the capital does something totally different. Okay? Small is going to delete a word. Shift is going to delete a whole character or a block. So be careful with that, okay? All right? And like the A is capitalized the one first letter or whatever. Shift A is going to capitalize the whole word as in an acronym, okay? Which on some of these is pretty neat because, you know, say you have it there and M is for Mark, small m, but say you want to change it, you know, say you're talking about money and you want to change it to a money conversion, it'll do it that way also just by doing the Shift M and change it to money.
My chart has the far left column all caps as well, so it's...
This one?
Yeah, that one's also all caps, so they're both caps.
Really? Yikes. Yeah, you don't want that one. Okay? And I'll check at home. I think I may have this chart too.
Okay.
So if I do, I'll bring it. If not, then does somebody not have it? Does yours show the small one on this side? Does,
No.
no? Were you able to print the other one?
Yeah, we printed the chart.
Okay.
We print several versions of it.
Okay.
Well, he printed one and I printed this one.
Okay.
But that one, they're both capitalized.
They are?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, you don't want that.
Oh, I didn't.
I'm saying that's why
I'm wondering.
she knows.
So a lot of this stuff is,
If you have like stagger, like we have stagger at home, so if you just.
is pretty neat too. Like I was telling you guys about the G, you know, you can global, but if you press a Shift G in hyperkeys, it'll take you to go to like a certain page. But if you're not in hyperkeys, Alt G will do the same thing. So press Alt G and see what it says.
Yep, go to page, whatever.
And Alt G should do that. Go to page, which is in hyperkeys, Shift G.
So what if you didn't have, say you knew it, say you wanted to guess a page because you wanted to go back and edit somewhere, you hit the wrong key, it took you to the bottom of the page, you want to go back where you were.
And you knew what page you were
How do
on?
you determine your line number?
You won't. It doesn't really do that. It doesn't get that specific. Like say it took you to the bottom of the page, you knew that you were on page 3, you just do that. It's already on 3. Say it was 6, you just push 6, go there. It'll allow you to put a time code.
That's what I was going to ask. So
Yeah.
would that benefit? If you
Yeah. So if you know the time code,
So
that'll
when you
really
go to
help.
that chart,
mm-hmm.
you'd be scrolling for a long time.
Yeah. But if you know that it's on page 6, you won't have to scroll that far. There's only 25 lines on a page, so you'll find it. Or if it took you to the bottom of the page, you just do the oops. But say you moved around and it's like, now it won't go back. But I know that I was on page 6, Alt G, or in hyperkeys, Shift G. And you can be in hyperkeys too, and do Alt G, and it'll do the same thing. Okay? So that's a good one to remember too. The small p, and you can be anywhere in there, and the small q will put a period or a question mark at the end of the sentence. So you can be at the beginning of the sentence, and it's 25 words long. It doesn't even matter. You can be in the middle of that sentence, push P, and it'll put a period at the end of that sentence. Okay? Or a Q, and it'll put a question mark at the end of it. And I was telling you about word additions, prefixes and suffixes. That W is going to be one of your best friends too. Okay? These 3 letters and the W on this hand is going to be your best friend. Delete, stuff like that. W is really good. Endings on the end of the words, God, it's going to save you a lot of time too. All right? Just put an ing, S, and all you have to do is press S and say it's city, and you want to put cities. Well, you don't have to push I because it's not IES. You just push S because you want to make it plural, and it already knows to cut the Y off and add IES. However it is, it's going to know how to do it. Does that make sense? So whether it's S, ES, IES, it doesn't matter. As long as you want to make it plural by putting the S, then it's going to know how to do it already. It already knows whether to put S, ES, or IES. Pretty neat.
So that's a W?
Yeah, small. Small W's, prefixes and suffixes.
So then, okay, then if I,
And it'll give you a list. Let's check it out. Come back to the Murphinator.
If you don't mind, I'm gonna, I found it and I'm
Put your hand
just
right
changing the, I'm just making a list for everybody and I'm just changing it already up here, so that way we can print it
Oh,
tonight.
you did it?
Yeah, I'm fixing it up.
Oh, cool. Okay.
so address with addresses.
Yeah. So you're already in there. See, and it gives you the letter. It gives you the letter of what you want to do. So say you want it to be addressed. Push D, push addressed. Z. Or say you wanted just as like that. And then put addresses. So it already knows. This is going to be pretty
And
neat.
then G is,
Yeah, addressing. And then this will be pretty neat. Right there, because you go there, S, and see how it changes to ID. So it already knows how to do it. You don't have to worry about, oh man, you know, is it IES, ES, just an S? It's gonna do it for you. Okay?
so then here, check out the line. So do it well. So that's what I have line.
Here, backspace, and Y,
And then I would,
and then just do the Q, and then the Q automatically puts it on. You don't have to do the question mark. You do the Q. Put your hand right there. Okay, guys. Any questions about that? There's a lot of stuff on there, and we'll kind of mess with the, you know, some of those things a little bit later. This might be a good place to stop because now it's going to start talking about inserting and stuff like that, and we're going to start covering something totally different. So, guys, we absolutely covered a lot of material tonight, okay? If you need to, go back and relook at that tutorial, okay? And mess with some of that stuff. Mess with some of those hyperkeys, and on something that you don't have to worry about. You know, just going through and mess with something. And even if you want to do it in that tutorial, you know, like I told you, go through and mess with it. Even if it messes it up, all you got to do is reload it again. It's no big deal. Okay? So if you want to mess with it a little bit, and it may not let you because it's not in the body of a text. Sometimes it'll let you do some things, sometimes it won't because it's not text. So, any questions about anything that we covered tonight? A lot of material. No? Okay, we'll see y'all next week.